Hey everybody!
Hey, how's it going?
Episode 10.
Yeah, 10, 10, 10.
Yeah, let's do this. This is going to be a 10 show. Oh,
Ooh.
that's like grading it.
Wow. Ooh.
It's like grading the show,
That's
giving
a good
it a
point.
10.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
This is a 10, means you're grading it.
Wow.
Our topic is grades, so it's fitting.
Apropos.
But speaking of which, just head on over to iTunes if you like what you hear and give us a 5-star review.
We would love it.
Yeah, it's not a grade, it's just showing love.
Hey,
showing
by the way,
appreciation.
Absolutely. 10 shows in, having a good time, loving the feedback.
Having a good time.
And we're really talking to a lot of people out there on the socials, Twitter, Instagram.
Absolutely.
Go to our website.
Yeah.
PabloandWest.com.
There you go.
And find all of it, all the
right.
goodness. So let's get into it. Grades.
You ready for this one?
So, yes, I am. So, what's your experience with grades?
So, thinking back on my childhood, my experience with grades was grades came easy. I got all A's pretty much all my life, and I can remember 2 instances where I didn't, and the pain associated with that. So just briefly, one was like a junior high reading quiz, and I scored like a B. It was like 15 questions, read a story, and I was in the high reading group, and I got a B, and I literally cried in class. And I was like, what?
That guy. That guy.
Hey, I wasn't that way all the time. I'm not an emotional wreck, but I just remember like, I think it was about the way I saw myself and the way my my fellow students, like how did I look in front of them. So it was interesting. And then the other one is in high school, 9th grade. I had PE, as everyone was required to do, and we had to leave a few days early before Christmas break, road trip to Nebraska to visit family. And Mr. Birkenhager saw it fit to give me a B for the whole semester. And then the second semester, I think I got an A. But looking back, like I had a 3.92 in high school, and there might have been one other B in there, but it was like freshman PE, like, and I went and talked to him. I got permission as much as you could, and he was just a jerk. He was like, I was fit. I was playing football. Like, I don't know what I did to earn the B.
So wait,
actually.
You were playing football, but still in a PE class? I thought that sports.
Yeah, so
kind of trumped that.
Yeah, so as you got more savvy with the system, you would get into like a football PE class. But my freshman year, I came from a private school. I didn't really know the system. It was just like, and it sucked. It was first period PE, like nice stink all day.
Yeah, man.
Stink all day after that.
Well, you could shower, but who showers?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and if you ever saw those locker rooms, it wasn't. I felt like you would get dirtier going into those. God bless West Covina High School, though.
Yeah, what with the mighty
Spartans.
Oh,
yeah. So what about you? Growing up, how did grades...
Here we go again. Yeah. Much like my educational experience, I don't remember much, but this I do remember, scarred. I wasn't a very good student, obviously. If you've watched any or listened to any of the episodes, however you're watching or listening to Pablo and Wes, yeah, man, I was just I wasn't into what they were putting down. And so...
Not your thing.
And so grades suffered.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I don't know how it ended up happening, like, especially high school. Let's just jump straight into high school, because you went to high school. No, I mean, you went to high school. But
I brought up high school.
You brought up high school. Thank you for clarifying. I had a 3.25.
Yeah.
However, they weren't elite classes. Like, I didn't take any AP. I don't even think I knew what that meant.
Right.
Back in the day. You know, I took the lowest of the lowest level courses, but I did get through, and I ended up with a 3.25. I cared enough because I wanted to play basketball. So that was the motivator behind everything I did in school. Was definitely basketball. So I only needed a C, so I obviously was doing something
above.
Yeah,
you went over
but I just remember trying to stay away from every science class that I could. I just was not into it. I just feared. So I finally took a science class. I believe it was horticulture. I'm sure I took some others. Again, do not recall. But I took horticulture. Yeah, baby.
We didn't have that.
Yeah, growing green beans and such. Yeah, and I did it.
You did.
And that was a good time. But grades were something that I didn't necessarily value. They were just part of the ecosystem that I had to survive in.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that motivated me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Basketball motivated me.
Yeah.
And so but moving into college, I tell people this all the time, that I became a GATE student all of a sudden. Like, I felt empowered.
That's interesting.
At the university level. I really did. I felt that it was, my mission was so much more. Right?
Yeah.
But grades still, again, never did it for me. Like, getting an A or a B on something didn't necessarily translate or tell me, oh no. And I do remember one more story is my physics teacher. I couldn't pass the physics.
High school or
this
college?
was college. Sorry, into college physics class. My major was kinesiology, and I had to take this physics class. And oh my gosh, the curve was ridiculous.
Right.
And I think a passing grade was like in the 40 percentile. It's like,
what?
He knows, like,
wow.
That's being a jerk. Like,
that's
right?
Crazy.
Like, you're going to make that, your class that difficult. Why?
Yeah.
I don't understand
what's
why.
Going on?
Because I was learning nothing there. I was just trying to survive. And I wrote him at the end of the year as one of those sad, you talk about the crybaby in the I didn't cry in the class, but I did cry in my email, kind of going, I didn't beg for anything. I said, in the end, blah, 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 blah. I'll see you next year, next semester. And somehow when my grades came out, he gave me a C.
What?
He floated me a C.
Wow.
Don't know why. I went to go back. I couldn't find him during the summer, and I just,
don't knock that personal communication.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. But what does that mean?
So that makes me think of two things. One is, you're talking about grades and motivation.
Yeah.
So in my senior year, I had AP Calculus. I was mostly in honors classes. AP wasn't around so much. I had English and I took AP Calc. However, going into looking at second semester, I realized I'm not going to pass the AP Calculus test.
Yeah.
My grade's not going to be an A. So I would rather drop this class and have first period off and come to school late than get a low grade and not pass the test.
Yeah, sure.
Even if I learned more calculus, it just wasn't worth the risk. And so the same thing happened in college. Like, I thought I was going to be a doctor, biology major, and I got into this, I want to say it's organic chemistry. However, it could have just been the first level of chemistry.
Right.
And then right before the midterm, I had a D, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. This sucks. And the professor had made a beautiful illustration of, this course is like a helium balloon. If you let go of it, it's just gonna float away, and you'll never get it back. And I went up before the midterm. I was like, hey, I'd like to drop right now before I take this midterm.
I didn't want to fill this helium balloon up.
Yeah, he's like, peace out. And then I went to a counselor, and I was just like, they're like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I have this creative writing course. It's so fun. It's easy. What's that major called? English? Okay, sign me up.
Done. Son.
So I've gone the path of least resistance.
Right.
And grades have just been a marker of, like, if it's hard to get a good grade, then stay away from it. So, not a good story
I'm not
in terms of
feeling good all.
It's not a good story in terms of traditional education. But what about as a teacher? Like, when you got that, that blessing, like, you're now
you're now a teacher.
You're gonna guide young minds.
You have to assign grades.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What did you do?
It was really sadly, into probably year 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
That I finally started to understand that, grades weren't all the end all be all. I mean, I kind of knew, because as a student, I didn't value them, but I just thought it was something you need to do as a teacher. And
so a lot of emphasis put on it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's time to get your grades turned in, or make sure you do progress reports. Yeah.
And appropriately or not appropriately, right now, while we're recording this, we're at the end of the standardized testing season, or we just ended for some of you. And There's a lot that goes into that. Like it's the Super Bowl, so to speak. It's the end. It's the end. Like, what do you know about this whole year in learning, whatever it might be, and whether it's single subject or multi-subject.
So when I think about teacher education and going into teaching, like I had some guidance. Like I knew, like, post grades anonymously. Like never put up all the kids.
That's a good tip.
Is it?
Posting grades anonymously.
I felt like that was a strong message in my teacher ed program. So I would never post grades with students' names attached. It would be like their ID number. And but I do remember, the students would like scuttle back to the back cabinets where those were posted. They would look at them. I wish I remembered a richer, more meaningful discussion or reflection around that, but it was kind of like, go see how you're doing, like see if you're in trouble.
That's
And it shouldn't be up to that. It should be, the student should know through conversation what they're learning and whether it's on par with the goal for the class versus I'm going to walk to the back cabinet and get a surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to move forward into what you just talked about, and that's grade, iterate, and replace. And so that's from some hacks that we'll post in the show notes, but I didn't necessarily call it that, but that's exactly what I did in my very last year.
Yeah, what is that?
I gave students the opportunity. Now, obviously, during the semester, you can only allow that so much, meaning up until the end, because then semester ends and that grade is locked in.
Explain what grade replaces.
Yeah. So essentially, whatever it might be, it could be a quiz, it could be a product, it could be anything that you're assigning and that they're going to get a grade for.
Yeah.
But the idea is it's not final. It's not finite. You actually allow them to get a grade, whatever the rubric might say or whatever whatever specifications you wanted on that project or product, but you allow them to iterate based on and it's up to them. It's still a choice.
So they can
it's not mandated.
Or retake the quiz or rewrite the essay.
Yeah, exactly. And then replace it. If it's better, then you replace it.
Yeah.
It's not the best solution, but it is much better than you got to be.
Yeah.
Learn from it, but
You're a B.
don't learn from it. You're a B on that piece.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
And I just remember my high school and even college, that was never even an option. So the fact that you're doing that, that represents some sort of shift, I would say, in culture among teachers. So, I mean, I remember, and I'm not proud of this, and I'm actually conflicted, I'm not sure, but I do remember giving a student a 0. They plagiarized the essay, and that was our policy. I said, you have a 0. It actually changed her college acceptance because she failed the class then.
Of course,
And then, so that was a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my student did this. But the consequences are this, and it actually changed where she went to college. And I didn't think twice about doing that. I'm like, those are the consequences, and this is a life lesson. I think I felt strongly about it shouldn't be on me to accommodate the student for trying to cheat and get a grade. But it was pretty clear that she felt a lot of pressure. She could have done the assignment. She could have come in and got help, but she felt such intense pressures that she thought she'd rather try to take someone else's work and submit it as her own, because she felt like there's no way I can get this grade that I know I'm supposed to get, which is, I'm not sure if that's the right message. I know the competition is good, and that's kind of one of our our talks in another
but
podcast.
In balance, we talked about being balanced there.
I think balance is key in these, especially I was teaching honors or AP. That would have been AP because she was a senior. And that was, I know I've talked to her since then and seen her on social media. She's doing fine. She's doing great. But I just remember that parent-teacher conference where you're like, look, this is how it's going to go down. And then the counselor goes, that college is probably going to drop you.
Students have a lot of resolve.
Yeah.
But there is some undue pressure that we put on kids, and mental state and motivation, it just matters. And there are so many, in the last episode, we talked a little bit about depression and my kind of my experience with it. And I just really think we need to look, kind of look at it again, like this whole grading
Yeah.
system on what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Don't do it because it's been tradition. It's been tradition since the late 1700s, Yale University. I was looking it up. I was like, who's responsible for all of this? I won't even say the guy's name because I don't remember. It's on my show notes. But it's like, that's where it all began. And I get its intentions are try to figure out what the whole student has learned over the course of time. And there was, this evaluative piece that needed to be implemented into the structure.
I feel like a lot of, regardless of how it arose, a lot of the emphasis on grades now has to do with the post-secondary options of college and where you can get accepted. And I feel like there's a disconnect between what universities really do to evaluate candidates and the pressure that families and students think they have on themselves.
Sure, great point.
So I used to work at a virtual school, and we were exploring competency-based learning and all these other methods. And when you go and you talk to like colleges or the NCAA, for example, there's a annual conference, INACOL, and we would go sit in those sessions and hear from the NCAA, like, what in terms of online learning, which is not traditional, how does the NCAA look at those grades, and how do colleges look at those grades? And I just remember the guy, I think his name was Nick from the NCAA. He's like, look, colleges evaluate transcripts from all over the globe.
Right.
They're not confused by a grade that says competency-based learning, the student has competency in this. They're going to look at the whole student, and they're skilled at deciding if the student is going to be successful. So for us, we've sort of embraced this, like, we're gearing up our kids for this battle for their lives, which is you go to college and become successful, or you don't go to college. And it's really like a false dichotomy. I mean, it's not true. There's tons of other ways to show, like, a great portfolio. Like schools like MIT, for example, like I had a student at the virtual school, and he showed like how he launched a weather balloon into the atmosphere, and he attached a GoPro to it, and he recorded all this data, and he submitted his blog and his portfolio to MIT. And way different perception that you're giving the college of that student than if you just hand them one sheet of paper with their grades.
No, absolutely. I really, like, when we talk about grades and we talk about, let's say, a 3.9 or whatever you're getting in Mrs. Hernandez's class versus Mr. Jones's class, history class, say, equal classes, different schools, maybe different districts.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What goes into a grade, whether it be the weight of the homework and quizzes and tests and activities and projects? Extra credit. Like, where's the falseness in that grade? Like, I guess over time you get this average, but is that who you really are?
Right.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, students refer to this teacher's an easy A.
Yes.
I mean, I'd like to see the gym where you go to the gym. Oh, this is the easy 300-pound squat.
Right.
Like, it's very objective, and grades are subjective. I think that's what you're getting at, and that's what resonated with me through my teaching career is grades are subjective. They really are, and we can be teaching next door and assigning grades almost like they're two different planets, which is a bad experience for students, I'm going to say.
Yeah. It's not a fun thing. It's not a fun thing. All right. Where are we at?
Well, I think we have a clip here from Chris Haskell. He's actually a friend of ours.
He is. Boise State professor.
Yes, and he has been in the arena of developing alternatives to grades, and one is quest-based learning, and there's more on that. But we're going to play a clip right now from a talk he gave, Portland Ignite talk, and he talks about, the topic is blowing up the grade book, which I don't know if I'd use that, with...
Might be aggressive, but maybe not. Maybe not.
But let's hear what he has to say about the role of grades and teachers in assessment and evaluation.
So because of technology, we can learn whatever we want, whenever we want. We just need teachers to get credit. So I believe the role of the new teacher is to loosen the restrictions on how students learn and apply the context to what they learn. You see, homework assumes that everyone's out of school time is the same, but it's not. Homework does a better job of telling us which parents are involved and which students are either overloaded or unmotivated. The due dates assume that almost the same thing, that the aligned space and time is just right for the activity. But you and I both know that if given a week, we'll take a week.
And we'll pause it right there. This actually harkens back some of our discussion around homework in a previous episode. But that was powerful for me to hear, and especially when he's talking about, like, with the rise of technology, the new teacher. So looking at how technology informs assessment and our responsibility as teachers, he actually is kind of saying homework is an antiquated system. And if you really look at it through an equity lens, you're actually measuring other things than what the student can do or what the student knows. And then that puts grades into question, because, like, I used to have a healthy, your homework is a certain part of your grade.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I really think in that talk, I think you should value feedback and conversations with students. I think it's so sad when I see some of my former students. It just feels bad. I feel good to see them, but I feel bad when I ask, how are you doing?
Right.
And what do they tell? How are you doing in school? And inevitably, they're going to tell me,
I have a B in math.
I have a B.
Or,
I have a C in history.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That's not really what I asked, but maybe it is. It's so ingrained that I'd rather have conversation, especially if you're my student, I'd rather have conversations about what you're learning and provide you feedback, meaningful feedback, so you can get better.
Yeah, that's great.
Regardless of a grade.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we understand here that it's easier said than done. Blowing up a grade book, it's not all going to happen.
Let's put a little more information onto that.
Yes.
So a blogger, Lisa Fish, wrote about Chris's talk and some of the research that he had at the university. So blowing up the grade book actually means not grading assignments with grades, but putting students into a quest-based learning environment where they're submitting quests for experience points. So gamified learning. So what he saw is 93% success rate. So 93% of the students are successful in the class, and students completing twice as much work in 30% less time with this kind of self-paced, quest-based learning dashboard. And then also, because of the research, and it's a digital platform, you can see when students log on. After the class, students were actually still logging in and still working, which is the complete opposite of, like, usually when we assign a grade, that's the last the student's ever going to think about it.
And we've seen a little bit of that in our school district.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, you're basically in charge of our personalized learning and gamified platform.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit in terms of
some
of the stuff that's been going on?
Yeah, so what we'd like to do is have a self-paced digital platform where students can unlock quests as they complete learning quests, and in that way it's more about that exploring the learning and moving through the different phases. We kind of use the Robert Marzano instructional phases, like from the learning goal and introducing new knowledge or interacting with new knowledge to a common format of assessment, then on through deepening and practice and celebrating success. So some of those phases that we believe are part of learning, we don't believe you have to go through lockstep, and we don't believe you have to have these kind of summative grade experiences embedded, but it's more about, like, I'm going to give you an experience with the material, see if you know it. If you know it, move on and do some exploratory and enrichment things. And if you don't, we're going to do a reteach cycle. And it's very critical, the language that we use around a reteach cycle is called respawn, and it's from the video game world, where you come back to life. And in video games, you never get that, like, oh, you're an F gamer, and then people just unplug and throw it down. But it's just like, hey, you
regenerate.
You regenerate.
Let's do this again.
Go again. And there's a lot of great material out there. If you want to look up game theory and how it applies to education, it's super interesting because it's giving you just the hardest challenge or the challenge that's right for your place of development, and it keeps you coming back and you keep learning. Ready?
Top three? Top four? I don't know. We have four today?
We have top four.
It's our top list.
All right, our top list.
Yeah. So number one on our top list is to explore innovation and question tradition.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
the grade system is arbitrary. It was set up by some dude a long time ago. He has no idea what 2018 looked like in terms of jobs or school or technology. So get over it.
Yeah. Let's do this. Teachers, let's do this.
That's right.
Let's do it.
All right,
number two.
Next tip is to choose motivation over measuring up. So what you want to do is look at the individual unique student in front of you and how are you going to motivate them. That's where the real the call, I think, for a teacher is, rather than just wielding the system or the test, like slapping it on a kid and seeing if they measure up or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number three, don't believe the lies that colleges are saying you need a high GPA. You talked a little bit about this, like, hey, why don't we get the kid throwing up the balloon with the GoPro and giving us that real life stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially now, and you know, our podcast is on YouTube, and we obviously have our own YouTube channels, but there's so much more in terms of that's available to students in terms of sharing their knowledge and getting authentic feedback and monetizing it and following your passion, and
absolutely,
that's your career. So don't buy into the old system and say, well, in order to go to college you need X, Y, or Z.
You don't, and you may not even need college. You may not. There's a lot of successful people in this world, tons, if for that matter. Anyways, let's move on.
So
Number
four, you want to value experiences and amplify the student voice to develop agency. So rather than make them a passive recipient of a grade, you want to say, what experiences did they have in my classroom, and how are they able to talk about it and articulate that? We just had our fourth graders go to, they did research on endangered animals, and they went to the zoo and presented to the zookeepers the things they had looked up in their fourth grade ways on the internet and such, but then they got real life feedback from zookeepers who, like 50 feet away, they're talking about the animals that they care for, and they're saying, hey, fourth grader, what you told me is this. I can tell you that in real life, that's sort of true, and let me qualify that and give you some feedback. So those experiences to come face to face with experts in the field are amazing.
Super cool, and something that I used to say at almost every one of my talks when I would go to conferences and do a presentation, I would either start or finish with, just remember, as a teacher, stop filling the vessel, start igniting the flame.
Ooh, that's powerful.
That is. I mean, it sticks with me. It's real simple.
Yeah.
But just stop talking at them and filling that vessel. Allow students to search out their own learning.
Yeah. Well said. And that flame doesn't come from lectures. It's not gonna.
No, that's like a dampener.
And report cards.
Yeah, we got a shout out.
Social media shout out. So we are just discovering Mr. D ×3.
Joe Dombrowski.
Yeah, on Instagram. So he's somewhat of a rock star with over 100,000 followers. And so one of the posts we're going to share, we'll put this link in the show notes.
He's been on Ellen.
Yeah,
you got to be a rock star to be on Ellen. That's
awesome.
So cool.
So one of the things that he posted recently is this post. I'm just going to click over to Instagram and take a look at it, and it's where he says, "You are worth more than a score."
That's the actual post, and then in his little
caption,
the caption is in the wake of it being state testing season across the U.S. Here's my unsolicited 2 cents. Can I get a amen?
Amen.
Amen, Dom.
Yep, you are
Dombrowski. Sorry, Joe.
Than a score.
Amen, brother.
Love it. That's our social media shout out for this episode.
That's it. We good. That's another episode in the books, and we appreciate you guys listening. Please head over to PabloandWest.com.
Yeah.
Also, hey, if you're just listening, get on iTunes or the Google Play Store and download us and give us a nice review.
Yeah.
5 stars would be great.
Yeah. Oh, and just real quick, in June, we're going to be at ISTE in Chicago.
Awesome.
So if you are, drop us a line on Instagram, Twitter, what have you. Let's connect.
All right.
We out.
That's it. See ya.
Bye.